Hi guys, so in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the blocking of the epoxy primer on this Mini that we did in the last video, and also some of the filler work, and we're going to go through that. Now I did say that we'd be looking at the primer side of it as well in this video, but I thought we'd concentrate more on the blocking and the aspects of that, the tools that we're going to use, and also the filler work before we get onto the primer stage, and then obviously the final sand for paint. And with it being school holidays, I've got my little helper Mia, my daughter, here today with me. He's going to be helping me out with the camera and that as we go throughout the day.
Hello.
So I'm going to get all set up and I'll show you guys through everything that we're going to be using, and we'll take you through the job that we're going to do on this car. So in the last video we went through obviously applying the epoxy and why we've gone for epoxy over this, over like traditional acid etch. Now the next stage is to give this a really good block down. So we're going to focus mostly on this panel here today and take you through that section, show you what we're going to use, which bits we're using and why, to try and give you a bit more of an understanding of how we go about this. So one important thing is obviously blocks. Now I've got 3 or 4 different blocks here. One's not going to be enough, so we've got a nice long one, we've got a short one for some of the tighter areas, we've got a slightly flexible one as well, and also a little diddy one, which is really handy with these Minis, because as much as people think these Minis are easy to work on, they are a bit of a pain because they have got a lot of tight areas and little sort of edges that you have to try and get into, which are particularly difficult to block. Now the initial block we're going to be doing with the P180 Abronets. They're really good. Using a good quality paper does make a lot of difference when you're blocking a car out like this. And then when we get to the filler work, we're going to be using an 80 Abronet, and then we'll finish it with the 180. Now I've also got some of the MIRKA soft sanding sponges. These are a P180. They're really good on jobs like this for getting inside all these little intricate areas, inside the door shuts, inside all these little edges and the little rolls, and also even stuff like the boot shut. You know, all these areas, they're extremely good, these little hand pads, because they're soft and obviously because they will form to the shape of the panel a little bit better. But obviously you can't use them for blocking. Now we're going to use a guide coat. So we've got black guide coat for this. We're going to guide coat over the panel so we can use the guide coat to highlight any of the highs and lows, etc. as we're going through the job. Just got some scissors for cutting up the sanding sheets. Filler wise, now I really like this UPOL Dolphin Premium. We've got the medium depth one here. It comes in a few different grades, so you can get it for deep repairs, but I mean realistically you shouldn't be putting filler on thick anyway, so the medium one should be more than enough. Then that's going to be for, say, the deeper and the larger areas, and then for the small bits and bobs we're going to be using UPOL Dolphin Glaze. It's always good to make sure that it's a nice fresh bag, so it's nice and liquid because it's got a lot of self-leveling properties. So say for instance when we come to do like the big wobbly bit on the roof, that is going to be an absolute godsend because it'll level out really nicely. You can get a real nice smooth skim. It's ideal filler to use. We've obviously got some hardener. We've got a little board for mixing up and some filler spreaders. And I'm also using, Welcome sent me out a couple of paint masks. So I'm going to be using one of them as a dust mask today. Just obviously to protect myself a little bit while we're going through the job. So we're going to take you through this panel. Now if I do give you a quick little view around the other side, I have, well, I've been waiting for my cameras and stuff to charge up, started blocking that panel out already. You can see that pretty much that whole panel is done. Now we don't need to worry about from like the radius of the holes down. It's got a big arch on it, so although this panel curves in, that's why it's got this low area showing around there, because the panel does start to bow in slightly there. So we'll just smooth that up with the DA. What we want to make sure is there's no highs or lows from basically the whole line above, which will give us a nice clean finish, but we're still going to smooth that out to make sure that's nice. And then highlighted here, as you can see, where I've already started doing some of the blocking out, is the low areas in the dark colour. And obviously like in here, we've gone all around there, blocked it, guide coated and blocked all around there. So that gives us a really nice finish around the window edges. And again, we just use the hand pads for that. So I'm going to get the camera set up now. So we've got a good view of this panel and you guys can get a good view of what we're doing, and then we'll get into the video and I'll talk you through it as we go along. So the first of many steps on this is going to be applying the dry guide coat. Now the dry guide coat is just a powder. I think it was Sartman Schmidt who told me that apparently 3M came about this by accident, and it's actually printer toner that it got divulged from. Obviously don't use printer toner, you're better off using, you know, guide coat, or you can even use like a matte black rattle can and just lightly dust over the panel. But a dried guide coat does work a lot better and is a lot easier to reapply in areas where you need to. Now the second stage, we'll be taking a P180 on the long block. We've got a mask on and we're going to start blocking across this panel, because what we want to work out is just how straight these panels are, how much work they do or don't need. So you'll notice that I'm going in a long diagonal motion, and I'm going to try and keep the diagonal motion as best I can. So by going across it diagonally, not only am I blocking the height, but I'm also blocking the width, like the length, the height and the width all at once across the panel. And I hope that makes sense. So we're not just blocking in a straight line front to back, we're not blocking up and down, we're blocking front to back, up and down in one diagonal stroke. Now you can see that I'm just spending a lot of time on that top area there. I'm just fine tuning up the body line across the top where this epoxy is obviously laid down, and we just want to make sure that all these lines, you know, all the panel edges and everything are tuned up as well as you can, and just try and finely tune them in. Take your time on those areas, because obviously when this is painted, those are the areas that are going to matter. Now when I first asked about this epoxy, I was told it had a little bit of build, but not you know, not a great amount. I have to say it has got quite a lot of build, this. There's only some very small breakthroughs at the end of this. Now where I've changed the camera shot around here, I've just switched over to smaller block because it's getting to a stage where I won't get the larger block in that gap. And obviously you can see at the bottom there, I genuinely couldn't get this, even the smaller block, into that gap. The same as in this spot. As much as I could partly get the big block in there, it's going to be a lot more effective for me to use the slightly smaller one along this bottom edge, especially where that little roll of the sort of back of the arch comes up the quarter panel. That little corner there is a very tight corner, and it's really awkward to block and get back flat. Now I'd done up to the bottom of this swage line when I was using the long block, and now I'm just coming in with a slightly smaller one. Again, just tuning up those body lines across those edges, just trying to tweak everything up as nice and neat and as straight and as tight as I can. So down in this bottom edge is one of the last sections, I guess. We're just going to use that really little diddy block, get in that little edge, because again, this is where these minis can be a bit of a pain, because they've got all these really tight corners and tight little edges that you need to get into. And then obviously we're going to need to put filler in some of them areas, which again makes it more difficult. So at the bottom there, I'm just showing where the radius of the arch is. So anything outside of that, really, where that guide coat is, I need to address. So you can see there, we've got a very prominent dark patch. So these prominent dark patches will be the low spots in the panel. Now there's a slight low patch in the middle there, but I think with a little bit more work that will come out, because as I said, there is quite a bit of build to this epoxy. So now we've got that whole panel 180'd out, we know where all these issue areas are. I've mixed up some of the UPOL Dolphin Premium, and we're just going to put a light skim on. Now this is only very, very light, we're not putting a lot on, and as you'll probably see as I'm taking this off, you're probably taking sort of about 70% of it back off again, because you only want to leave the filler in the lows. So anything that's outside of where that black is at the moment and where those low spots are will be taken back off. Now quite a common area on these minis is along the bottom of these quarter panels, that I haven't done one of them that's actually had a straight bottom section there, especially if someone, say, welded a repair patch in. But again, you can see in a second I'm struggling to get the filler around that corner, so you do have to spend a bit of time and just try and work it in. You're best to try and sort of, like I am here, load it up a little bit first and then try and pull it off and get a nice smooth skim on there, because you want to put in just enough. You don't want to be putting in like way too much, otherwise you're going to be spending a lot of time obviously working all the excess filler off. So rather than sort of loading it up really thick, I'm trying to put a nice light skim on that'll be nice and easy to block out, and then you know, the less time that I spend blocking, the better. I can always add a touch extra in a certain area if it needs it, but it's better than spending, like, you know, half an hour on one section sanding a load of excess filler off. So I'd say that, like, getting good at applying your filler will save you a lot of times on restoration work and also on accident repair work as well. So for this section up here, I'm using the long block because I've got a couple of patches of filler that are, like, quite close together, and I've got the P80 Abranet on for that. And then I'm going to switch over a little bit and move on to the smaller block again to get around some of these tighter areas towards the back end of the panel, where I need the smaller block to get that little bit more sort of movement and just be able to, you know, get across that area to block it that little bit better. Now I've kept with obviously the 80 on this smaller block. We're going to be running 180 until we've got this whole panel, I'd say about 95% flattened out, and then at the last minute I will change over to the P180 and then we'll smooth it all out with a P180. Now, just for instance, like a piece of footage like this is sped up like 8 times, and there are quite a few bits of sped up footage throughout this video, and they vary anything from like 2 times to 12 times actually real time speed. So this one particular panel, in order to actually video this in a way that I could guide you guys through, it took me all afternoon to actually set this up, record it, video it. It was a long afternoon just to do this one panel. But whilst I was waiting for, say, filler bits to dry in between, I was working on other sections of the car. Now, if you're not experienced, what I would recommend to do is not try and work too much at once. Maybe like I've done here, do one panel, get one panel blocked, filled, 180'd, get all the edges done with the soft pad, and then move on to your next panel. That way you're not going to sort of lose track where you're up to, where you do or do not need to add extra filler. So that area along the bottom there, this is actually like a second round of filler where I'd added a little bit more filler. But as you can see, all these areas now are done. We still need to address this bottom corner, which needs a little bit of filler where the pitting is at the bottom. Again, another common spot on these minis. But the door edge and all those other low spots and along that bottom of that quarter panel are all done. Now they're all done like 95% of the way in a P80 at the moment. Now whilst I was doing the quarter panel, my little girl, and bear in mind she's only 9, was begging me to get in the booth and help me out rubbing this down. So we've got her a mask on and she's been rubbing out around the door shut edges, the boot shut, around the front end there, and I have to say she made an absolutely cracking job of it. In fact, for a 9-year-old, she's got a better work ethic than most people I know that are double her age. She came down for the day because she wanted to come to work with me, but she really wanted to get involved and have a bit of a go of what Dad does. So she spent the best part of the day actually working along with me, helping me film, and also going around the car and rubbing all the simple bits out that she could have a bit of a play on. Obviously, this being a customer's car, I will go around all those areas and check them, but all the bits that I have seen that she's done are absolutely spot on so far. Just them little bits like around the front grille, you know, around the boot shuts, around the windows, that sort of thing. Now, what I'm doing here, now I've got all the filler work right, and I've knocked it all off to about, I'd say, 95, 97.5%. I'm just going around now with the P180 on the block, and then I've got the soft sponge going around all the edges on the panel to make sure everything's fine-tuned, tweaked up. When I'm done, this particular panel should be finished, and then I can move on to the next panel. I'll then work one panel at a time, would be the easiest option around the car.
Okay, so we've now got all the 180 blocking done with the guide coat. That obviously highlighted all these low areas around the car. Then we need to put a little bit of filler in and address. So we've done that. We've then sanded them off with the 80 and then sanded the whole panel over again with a P80. So now all the repair work's finished. Everything's nice and clean. We've got no guide coat anywhere that's highlighting any sort of issue areas across the panel. And that one panel now
and obviously the window surround that my little one's been going around doing while I've been doing the main bits is all finished up. So the next stage, there is a few little areas, obviously, where we've been blocking, where there's a little bit of metal grinning through. So I think when we've got all the repair work done, the main plan is to probably going to be go across the car with a light coat of epoxy, just to make sure that all these little bits that are grinning through have been sealed up. And then we'll get some primer on it and get some high build on it, and that'll be the next video. So I would just want to say a big thank you to everyone who has obviously tuned in and watched this video. As of this video going live, it's Christmas Eve, so I just wanted to take a little moment to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and I hope you all get to spend some nice time with family. It's been a tough 2 years now, obviously with the virus situation and everything else, so I hope that you guys all get to enjoy a nice Christmas with your family and your friends and get to enjoy a little bit of time off. I also want to say a massive thank you to all for all the support that you guys have given us. The virus situation obviously just didn't make family life tough, it made business life tough. You know, it cost us like tens of thousands to get through the COVID period, and it's been a long slog this year to try and get caught back up and get on top of stuff. Hence, you know, I worked too hard and ended up in a hospital. But the support from you guys all the way through the year, and also while I had to take a break from videos because of not only the virus but obviously my health, has been overwhelming. You know, it's not just, a lot of you guys always sort of say thank you to me for the videos, but you guys don't realise that it's actually you that make the channel. Without you guys watching and viewing and liking and sharing and subscribing, there is no channel, there's just videos that get uploaded. So it means as much to me that we've got such a great community of you guys watching as it does for you guys obviously getting help and information from the videos. And I think a lot of the time, I suppose as YouTubers we don't sort of say that. You know, I didn't start off this channel for fame and money or anything like that. I started off because I wanted to help people like myself who might have had a little bit that they were struggling with. But in essence, me putting those videos out for you, you know, your support and, you know, the sort of love that you show helps me as well sort of progress and always aim for that better job, looking at new processes, trying to get new things that we can bring out to show you guys. So it's, you guys are pushing me forward as much as I'm trying to help you in moving forward. Also, I want to say huge thank you to some obvious people. Mick, my business partner on the powder coating side, who's helped me out a lot this year when I came out of hospital. A few of you guys like John. John's a long-term subscriber of the channel and quite often helps out when I'm busy by sharing videos and sharing posts. So I want to say a big thank you to John. And also Stuart. Stuart's somebody who has been coming to me for some training days and bits and pieces, and has now become more of a friend than a subscriber or just someone that we run training days with. I want to just, again, you know, the help and support from all you guys, you know, is greatly appreciated. Not to mention, obviously, the awesome brands that you guys have given me the opportunity to work with through the channel over the last few years. And most of all, our sponsors over at SP Supplies. We've worked with the two Daves there now for many years. When we started working with those guys, we were a tiny little channel. We had like 6,000–7,000 subscribers. And as of making this video, we've got like 27,500 subscribers. The two Daves over there have been a massive help as far as YouTube has gone. Getting us products that we can show and give extra content to you guys. And not just as a YouTube channel, but also personally and as a business as well. They have done a lot for us, and I just want to say a massive thank you to those guys. They've been a huge support over the years, and although we have gone from 7 to 27,500 subscribers whilst we've been working with them, we will and want to remain working with them up to the point where hopefully we've got, you know, 70, maybe 700,000, who knows. You know, we don't want to stop working with them. They have been a massive support. As much as they're very loyal to us, we are also very loyal to them. So we want to keep up that relationship. And as always, you know, if any of the products in this video that you're interested in, they are linked in the description on the SP Supplies website. There is also a 5% off discount code, which I will pop up in the corner of the screen here, which is purely for you guys, so you can get a little bit of extra discount on anything from SP Supplies. So again, I want to wish everybody from me and my family to you and yours a Merry Christmas, and I hope you all have great holidays, and I'll see you again after the Christmas break. Bye for now.